Hey everyone, this is Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltsner.
And this is me, also known as Echo.
And we are here at West Edmonton Mall and the pirate ship stuff. And also our mother is here. And you're watching The Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. Hello everybody, it is Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltsner, occasionally as Dr. Blackard.
And I am Victoria Francis, also known as Echo, and I'm wearing green today.
Even though it's not St. Patrick's Day. And this is episode 54 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. And today we are not reviewing any episodes. Imagine that.
Yay!
For the first time in a very long time. What are we doing today, Victoria?
We are doing a BGTO. And for those noobs out there that don't know what BGTO means, get off this website. No, I'm kidding. It means Beginner's Guide to Odyssey. These are videos that
I like how you address the comment specifically to noobs when this is a video specifically meant for beginners. Good job, Victoria, at alienating 100% of the people that this is meant for.
Thank you. It's my job. So these videos, the beginner's guides, are meant for those noobs out there that are new to Odyssey. And and it's meant to inform them about things that they might not otherwise know.
It's like a reference guide just to the basics of the fandom. So if you're coming in, you don't own all the episodes, you're new to stuff, you've heard some stuff, but you want to talk with fans, these will give you, basically get the gist of what's going on with the major characters and places, inventions, sagas, and stuff like that in our fandom.
You watch our videos, and then you come out of all our videos, and you're like, who the heck are Eugene and Katrina? Then leave. Just leave. There's no hope for you.
But now you can come back, watch this video, and then go back. You don't have to leave. Victoria can leave.
Oh, no, you did not.
So yeah, these videos, as we've said on the previous ones, are really more intended as reference guides than something to like, hey, let's sit through this, unless you're someone like me who likes to observe all the minuscule facts. Although these videos are not about being super exhaustive about every detail. They're about giving more of a summary thing. Our lore videos are the ones that are about being really thorough and anally exhaustive about a specific topic. These ones are more general, though still fairly specific, because I find it very hard to write without being more and more and more specific and trying to generalize as much as I can. Anyways, we need to stop talking and get this started.
Yep. And if you are interested in character lores, we've already done 2, which are for Wit and Connie.
And our next one will be coming out soonish.
No guarantees.
Yeah, we don't make promises here, otherwise we'd break them all the time. All right, and let's go now. This is the Beginner's Guide to Odyssey for Sagas. Accurate up to episode 765, Follow Me.
The Blackard Saga, one of 2 sagas to have its own collection. It has 40 episodes. From albums 1, 5, 7, 10, 11, 15, 20, 22, 24, 25, 26, 28, 33, and 34. Main sections include the prologue, being recollections, applesauce, from a bite of applesauce to the battle, in between episodes, from one bad apple to the Underground Railroad, darkness before dawn, from small fires, little pools to the final conflict, and the epilogue, from Welcome Home Mr. Blackard to I Slap Floor. The key characters in this saga are John Avery Whitaker, Connie Kendall, Eugene Meltsner, Tom Riley, Jack Allen, Jason Whitaker, Bart Rathbone, Philip Glossman, Regis Blackard, Edwin Blackard, Richard Maxwell, Rodney Rathbone, Jellyfish, Lucy Cunningham Schultz, Sam Johnson, and Billy McPherson. Approximately tied for Adventures in Odyssey's most popular saga, the Blackard Saga centered on the activities of Dr. Regis Blackard and his attempts to gain power and money through various means. A dark, mysterious mastermind, his ultimate goal was always to acquire an amazing catalyst mineral from under Wits End. He tried to buy the land when it was the Fillmore Recreation Center under the guise of his Webster development firm, but Wit outbid him and created Wits End. Years later, Blackard returned to town, opening an amusement house for children called Blackard's Castle. He used Philip Glassman and Richard Maxwell to try and steal Wit's applesauce program, which Wit developed for the Department of Defense. He failed, and the castle burned at Maxwell's hands. Blackard later showed up in Chicago, trying to steal a government program, where he was foiled by Wit and Richard once more. During this time, he allowed Bart Rathbone to build the Electric Palace through WDF. His twin brother Edwin also moved to Odyssey during this time. Blackard's final scheme was to create the supervirus Rukita from the synthetic virus Ruku and compound TA418. Blackard infiltrated terrorist organization Red Scorpion for the European Security Agency in order to steal the formula. Then he beheaded the terror group to tie up the loose ends. He needed the mineral under Wits End to create TA418, so he used all of his pawns and connections to weave an intricate plot to gain full access to the tunnels beneath the Discovery Emporium. Ultimately, he was found out, and in an act of desperation, caught between a rock and a hard place, suicide-bombed Wits End, taking his own life and barely sparing both Jack and the building. In his will, he left the Electric Palace to Edwin, forcing the actor to return to Odyssey to maintain the trust fund caring for their mother. Regis also planted a virus in the imagination station that would imprint his brain onto a child, allowing him to live once more. The virus tried to take Aubrey Shepard, but Wit foiled Dr. Regis Blackard one last time.
Novikov Saga, the other saga besides the Blackard Saga with its own collection. It contains 45 episodes spread across albums 32, 33, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, and 44. The main sections include the prologue, from Malachi's message to opening day, the main Novikov body, from Opportunity Knocks to Exit, and the epilogue, from Between You and Me to A Most Extraordinary Conclusion. Key characters: John Avery Whitaker, Eugene Meltsner, Connie Kendall, Tom Riley, Jason Whitaker, Robert Mitchell / Aram, Arthur Dent, Bennett Charles, the Chairman, Monica Stone, Mary Hopkins, Aubrey Shepard, Erica Colburn, Nick Mulligan, Walter Madison, Alex Jefferson, Cal Jordan, and Peter Borland. The Novikov Saga is the other story arc which competes with the Blackard Saga for the most popular tale in the fandom. This saga centered on Andromeda Incorporated and their daughter company, Novikov Broadcasting, who tried to take over the world with mind control through the conversion of radio waves to brainwaves. The plan required three main components to work: software, hardware, and delivery. Armitage Shanks was a board member for Andromeda, so he had Eugene head the radio wave study, trying to convert brainwaves to radio waves, under the guise that it would help the handicapped control technology and aid with learning. For the hardware, they needed an adaptation on Wit's imagination station, which used a similar sort of idea to induce dream state virtual reality. Finally, they needed radio towers around the world to deliver the signals on a global scale. Novikov Broadcasting was used to buy the radio towers around the world, since it was a radio and TV network. They opened a branch in Odyssey to keep an eye on Wit and Eugene. This branch was headed by Arthur Dent, and later Bennett Charles, when Dent tried to turn on the company. Wit protested their programming, but didn't realize their darker intentions for a long time. Robert Mitchell, a mole at Novikov, tried to leak information as the hacker Aram, but was seen as a villain by the Wits End crew until his death. He was dating Connie quite seriously until that point, and she was distraught. Andromeda tried to distract Wit from the imagination station by having him open a new Wits End in Connellsville in a partnership with Mary's Story Shop, which they owned. Eugene, meanwhile, discovered what was going on when Andromeda murdered Armitage for protesting their schemes, and Eugene and Katrina ran away with his research. Novikov managed to eventually steal the Imagination Station through a newly Christian Aubrey and reacquired the research by duping a love-struck Jason. They released the Nova Box, a video game console made from the combined technologies which was able to influence the public of Odyssey. When Arthur Dent blew up the Novacom Tower to try and stop them, Tom Riley was put on trial for the destruction. Tom and crew used the court case to expose all of Novacom's schemes, including testimony from Mitch, who wasn't dead but was in the Federal Witness Protection Program. With the public on their side, Witt and gang were able to stop Andromeda from going global with the signal less than a second before the launch by self-destructing the Imagination Station, breaking the link. Many Andromeda employees were arrested and 65% were laid off. Mitch stuck around for a while, but ultimately left for Virginia to join the FBI after all the work he did for them against Novacom. Eugene and Katrina kept running around the world for a much longer time until Eugene's research funding was cut and an accident forced them both to return to Odyssey once more.
Next, the Leonard Meltsner Saga, composed of 16 episodes, from albums 10, 14, 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49. Main sections include the prologue, From Last in a Long Line to Feud for Thought, and the body section, From Prisoners of Fear to a New Era. Key characters are Eugene Meltsner, Katrina Meltsner, Leonard Meltsner, Dalton Kern, Everett Meltsner, John Avery Whitaker, and Go Beer. The Leonard Meltsner saga focused obviously on Leonard Meltsner, Eugene's father, who is presumed dead for 21 years. When Eugene was 7 years old, his parents left on an archaeological expedition to Zaire, later called the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They went missing and were presumed dead. Eugene, now the last in a long line of Meltsners, went into the foster system until he was old enough to live in his own dorm at Campbell College. Years later, he discovered that Bernard Walton was his third cousin twice removed, providing him with living family. While Eugene and Katrina were traveling around the world, running from Andromeda, they did some missions work in Africa through Around the World missions. They went to install a transmitter in an isolated Ashanti village, only to discover that this was the village where his parents disappeared 21 years and 6 months ago. He learned that they were taken by a rival tribe ruled by Dalton Kern, Leonard's mentor in archaeology. He discovered that his father, the superior archaeologist, was kept captive for the last 20 years by Dalton, and that he escaped only 3 months ago. However, Thelma, his mother, died 2 years before. Upon their return to Odyssey, Eugene and Katrina tried to find Leonard, and finally tracked him down in Connellsville, and learned that Leonard had believed Eugene was dead for the last 20 years. It's revealed that Leonard and Thelma had a son named Everett while in captivity, but he died at the age of 2. Leonard still hid from Dalton because Leonard could put him behind bars for years after all he'd done. Finally, Eugene, Leonard, Witt, and Jason took down Dalton Kern once and for all. They discovered in the process that Everett didn't die, but that Dalton had been raising him as his own out of the sick fantasy that Thelma should have married Dalton and that Everett should have been his son. After becoming a Christian, Leonard, along with Everett, ended up moving back to the Ashanti village as a missionary with Evan Ontero, leaving Eugene and Katrina to run hand up in Odyssey.
The Green Ring Conspiracy, containing 17 episodes spread across albums 13, 53, 54, and 55. The main sections are comprised of the prologue, which is the Scales of Justice, the Green Ring Conspiracy, which is the Green Ring Conspiracy parts 1 through 12, and the epilogue, From A Penny Saved to the Labyrinth. Key characters: John Avery Whitaker, Connie Kendall, Eugene Meltsner, Katrina Meltsner, Penny Wise, Wooten Bassett, Monty Whitaker Dowd, Jason Whitaker / The Stiletto, Matthew Parker, Emily Jones, Don Polhouse, Jay Smouse, Wally Hagler, Archie Hagler, Benjamin Trask, Jebediah Skint, Buck Oliver, Mr. Grote, Dirk Beggs, Lauren Tanner, and Lily Graham. The Green Ring conspiracy centered on a counterfeiting ring run by Dr. Benjamin Trask and Archie Hegler out of Odyssey. Trask used to work for the National Mint, but moved to Odyssey for health reasons. He carefully and slowly printed money from Odyssey for years and years, and as Uncle Archie's carnival traveled between Odyssey and all over the United States, they would distribute these counterfeit bills. Witt's grandson, Monty Whitaker Dowd, working for the Secret Service, went undercover, working for a famous mobster known as the Stiletto, so that he could eventually take down the counterfeiting ring. It would later turn out that the Stiletto was actually his uncle, Jason Whitaker, working undercover to take down Mr. Grote, a financial terrorist. Monty and Dirk Beggs traveled to Odyssey to pick up a sample of the bills from Mr. Skint, one of the carnival employees. Flying out of Odyssey, Monty's cover was blown and a scuffle crashed the plane. Matthew Parker tried to hack Dirk's Appleberry smartphone, which was dropped in the woods and contained incriminating evidence. Emily and Eugene found the backpack filled with counterfeit bills which fell from the plane. Detective Don Polhouse suspected the wrong Hegler brother and went after Wally, Jace Mouse's uncle, instead of Archie. Buck Oliver, Mr. Skint's young apprentice, went to work at Wits End to find the Appleberry smartphone and romanced Emily Jones to try and accrue her help. Katrina suspected that Buck was up to no good, but Eugene wouldn't believe her. Connie was taking an art class at Campbell County Community College with her new friend Penny Wise, taught by Penny's idol, Dr. Benjamin Trask, the mastermind of the counterfeiting ring. Wooten, meanwhile, was falling for Penny. Monty was accused of being a double agent by his superior, Agent Lauren Tanner, but she turned out to be the turncoat in the end. By the end of it, after many twists and turns, everyone responsible was caught and arrested. Dr. Benjamin Trask, Mr. Skint, and Archie Hegler were sent to prison. Penny Wise was completely unaware of what she was tangentially involved in. Buck partially redeemed himself due to Katrina's compassion, but was sent to juvenile detention. Jason sneaked away, only being seen by Whit, Penny, Connie, and Wooten. Later, in London, Jason finally tracked down Mr. Grote and stopped him from assassinating countless world leaders using the Koflax virus, with the help of Dale and Ann Jacobs and a young street urchin named Sue.
The Eugene and Katrina Saga, 69 episodes, from albums 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 28, 29, 31, 32, 37, 39, 44, 45, 49, 53, 55, 57, and 58. Main sections are Pining, From Truth, Trivia, and Trina to The Perfect Witness, Not Dating, From the Turning Point to Solitary Refinement, Engagement, From For Whom the Wedding Bells Toll to Malachi's Message, Wedding, From Plan B to For Better or For Worse, In Between Episodes, From Back to Abnormal to A New Era, and Children, From Green Ring Conspiracy to The Ties That Bind. Key characters include Eugene Meltsner, Katrina Meltsner, Armitage Shanks, Millie Shanks, Buck Oliver, Leonard Meltsner, John Avery Whitaker, Connie Kendall, Jack Allen, Fred Holstein, and Brandon Teller. Moving on to the non-action sagas, we have the longest and most complicated romance in all of Adventures in Odyssey history. It's also probably the only saga on this list which isn't finished. Eugene Meltsner first met Katrina Shanks when he was at the Campbell College Library, looking for trivia books for Bart's game show, Truth and Trivia. He quickly fell for Katrina and was surprised by how she liked him for his personality, not for his brains. They flirted for a while, but never openly expressed their feelings. When Katrina was let go from the college library, she was hired by Whit. Even though she was hired by Holstein's books later that day, she was deeply affected by her short time at Wits End and decided to become a Christian. Eugene, as a result, decided to back off with his feelings for her, not wanting to put undue strain on her new faith. They continued in this manner for a while, until the turning point. When Armitage, Katrina's father, came to visit, he and Jack Allen independently expressed to Eugene and Katrina that they couldn't keep on this way. Both were in love with the other, but both knew that the relationship couldn't move forward unless Eugene became a Christian. As Eugene had no such intentions, Katrina returned to the University of Chicago. The distraught Eugene decided to grow a mustache and delve further into his studies. At his lowest point, in the midst of the Blackard Saga, having lost wit, Katrina, and even wit's end, he finally accepted Christ. After the chaos in Odyssey subsided, Eugene tried to reunite with Katrina, but found that she was now dating Brandon Teller at her university. However, she still loved Eugene. After crashing Armitage and Millie's wedding vow renewals, Eugene was in a panic over his relationship with Katrina, and when he learned that Brandon had proposed to her, he did the same, and he was rejected. Later, Katrina returned to Odyssey for the summer, and while heavily medicated, she proposed to Eugene, and he said yes. It seemed that she'd ended her relationship with Brandon some time ago. But living in different cities, Eugene and Katrina moved through their engagement period without talk of a wedding date. During this time, Armitage got his future son-in-law on Andromeda's radio wave study, and after discovering the purpose and protesting it, Armitage was given a lethal brain tumor. Eugene and Katrina were married by Reverend Brandon Teller at Armitage's bedside minutes before he died. After learning some of the background to Armitage's death, Eugene stole the radio wave research, and the newlyweds fled the country for several years. They traveled the world, hiding, doing spy work, being missionaries, etc. While in Africa, they discovered Eugene's father was alive. Eventually, they returned to the States and continued Eugene's radio wave conversion research at the National Institute of Health in D.C. When the government decided to cut Eugene's funding, he experimented on himself in desperation and gave himself amnesia back to when he first came to Odyssey. The couple finally returned home to try and return Eugene's memories, which they did. They also finally received a wedding with their friends and family present. Eugene and Katrina started a charitable organization called Hand Up and ran it for several years. Eventually, they both wound up teaching, Eugene at the college and Katrina at the middle school. During the Green Ring conspiracy, Katrina became very attached to Buck Oliver and was able to touch him spiritually to the point that he betrayed Mr. Skint and freed Katrina when she was kidnapped. Later, the couple discovered that they couldn't have children, but when Buck was up for parole at his request, they became Buck's halfway house and effectively became the parents he'd never had.
Connie and Mitch's relationship, containing 27 episodes, spread across albums 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, and 55. Main sections include Pre-Death, stretching from Green Eyes and Yellow Tulips to Secrets, Death, stretching from Plan B Part 2 to The Unraveling, Redating, stretching from Exceptional Circumstances to Here Today, Gone Tomorrow, Virginia, stretching from Seeing Red to Something Blue, and the epilogue, stretching from Living in the Gray to Something Old, Something New. Key characters: Connie Kendall, Robert Mitchell, John Avery Whitaker, Jack Allen, Joanne Allen, Peter Borland, Maureen McFadden, Bennett Charles. Connie and Mitch's relationship was deeply tied to the Novikov Saga, as that's what brought Mitch to Odyssey. Their relationship is also possibly the most dividing issue in the fandom still today. Robert Mitchell moved to Odyssey from Boston, coming in as the community relations representative for Novikov Broadcasting. Because Whit was so outspoken against Novikov's programming, one of Mitch's primary work directives was to liaison with Whit and make sure that Whit's grievances were aired and expressed in ways which would be the least damaging to the company's image. Mitch met Connie the first time he went to Whit's End, and they soon started dating. Connie constantly felt conflicted between her feelings for Mitch and her worries about the secret she knew he was keeping. After Connie found a picture of Monica Stone in Mitch's briefcase and was unable to figure out who it was, she confronted him about his secrets and found out that he was falling in love with her. Mitch told Connie to talk to someone online that night and that everything would make sense soon. That night, Mitch, as Aram, sent Connie an update report on Operation Think Tank just moments before the FBI stormed his room. The FBI placed Mitch in the Federal Witness Protection Program and told everyone that he had been murdered. Connie was distraught and heartbroken over the loss, and even more so when she learned that Mitch was Aram all along. Later, when visiting Mitch's sister, Rachel, Connie learned that Mitch was still alive, and they began communicating again. After Novikov was defeated, they were able to continue the relationship normally for once. This lasted an incredibly short time before Mitch was offered a job at the FBI by Agent Peter Borland. Because the training was 16 weeks in Virginia, Connie tried everything to keep Mitch in Odyssey, and he even opened his own computer consulting business in his apartment, but it wasn't enough. When Whit's identity was stolen by Bennett Charles, the FBI allowed Mitch to work on the case, and by the time Charles was caught, Mitch knew that he wanted to work for the FBI. He proposed to Connie so that they could stay together, but she said no for the time being. Mitch and Connie dated long distance for several months and grew distant. After a fight, Connie decided to piggyback on Joanne's road trip to D.C. so she could apologize to Mitch in person. Once they arrived, Connie quickly realized, from both Mitch and the Borlands, how time-intensive and dangerous the FBI was, and how demanding it was on family members. Despite this, when it looked like Mitch would be accepted to the International Law Enforcement Academy in Budapest, he and Connie decided to get married so they could stay together. They only had a few days to plan the wedding. The night before, Mitch was kidnapped by fellow agents as a bachelor party prank, and Connie realized that she and Mitch had completely different wishes for their lives. Looking at what she'd leave behind, the requirements and danger his work would take, and the reasons that spurred their engagement, they decided not to marry. Mitch moved to Budapest, Hungary, to join the 2-year anti-terrorism program at the International Law Enforcement Academy. Years later, Mitch visited Odyssey on assignment with his fiancée, Maureen McFadden, finally closing the possibility that Connie and Mitch would wind up together.
The Pokenberry Falls Saga, 18 episodes, from albums 17, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 26, 31, 42, and 50. Main sections include No Job, From Our Daily Bread to Deliver Us from Evil, Seminary/Pregnant, From a Prayer for George Barkley to a Call for Reverend Jimmy, Stuart Born, From Unto Us a Child is Born to Pokenberry Falls RFD, and then the epilogue, From It's a Pokenberry Christmas to the Triangled Web. Key characters include George Barkley, Mary Barkley, Donna Barkley, Jimmy Barkley, Stuart Reed Barkley, Lawrence Hodges, John Avery Whitaker, Barry Lionel, and Ellis Birch. The Pokenberry Falls saga focused on the Barkley family after George was laid off, and how this led to their moving away from Odyssey. It all started when George's company moved their focus from Odyssey to Hope, Arkansas. George, instead of receiving the promotion he expected, was laid off. The family went through some financial difficulties, but Mary, Donna, and Jimmy all got jobs to help offset the loss of income. After a few months, George was offered a better job at his old company, but after praying, turned it down because he believed he was being called into the ministry. At the same time, Mary revealed that she was pregnant. George worked his way through seminary, while taking over most of the pastoral duties at Odyssey Community Church as their pastor became sicker. It was extremely taxing and stressful, but the church body did its best to help George. Mary experienced unusual food cravings, but other than that, carried her child to term fairly uneventfully. Mary went into labor on Christmas Eve, while she and George were in the middle of playing Mary and Joseph in Jimmy's live nativity play on kids' radio. Stuart Reed Barkley was born very shortly afterwards. The day that George graduated from seminary, he was approached by Ellis Birch of Pokenberry Falls in New England. He was seeking out George to become the new pastor of the first church in Pokenberry Falls. The family, save for Stuart, traveled to the town, and despite the Birch family's efforts to hide its flaws, the Barkley saw a town that desperately needed a touch from the Lord, and they felt called to it. Life was very difficult financially for the Barkleys there, but they endured, despite the efforts of Barry Lionel, the head deacon of the church, and the man who owned most of the town. George later visited Odyssey and performed Jack and Joanne's wedding. Donna eventually went off to college in California, and Jimmy attended in Washington, where he got an internship at the Washington Post. After his life completely fell apart there, he returned to Pokenberry Falls. Later, Jimmy moved from Pokenberry Falls to Parkersburg, New Hampshire, which is slightly larger, as a gopher at the TV news station.
The Strasburg Separation, containing 7 episodes spread across albums 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49. Main sections include the prologue, which is Tales of a Small Town Thug, and the body, which is Now More Than Ever to Life in the Third Person. Key characters include Mandy Strasburg, David Strasburg, Rachel Strasburg, Stephen Strasburg, Liz Horton, Elaine Washington, Connie Kendall. The Strasburg Separation saga focused on the separation and reuniting of the Strasburg parents, Stephen and Rachel. The Strasburgs' marital unrest grew very slowly and subtly. After Stephen had been sleeping on the couch for a while, Liz found out about it and tried to help, but Mandy was indignant, insisting that everything was fine. Directly thereafter, the couple separated, with Stephen finding a temporary place to live in town. As Mandy tried desperately to reunite her parents, David, on the other hand, was apathetic and became more delinquent and more separated from his old friends. Mandy emotionally confided in Connie and the Washingtons during this time, but nothing helped. Stephen was eventually offered a job at a veterinary hospital in Chicago and was going to take it and take David with him, leaving Mandy and Rachel in Odyssey. While Stephen was looking for houses, Rachel was at a women's conference with Elaine Washington and realized that the reason she and Stephen broke up is that they stopped praying together. Elaine convinced her to reconcile, and David did the same to Stephen. Mandy was hit by a car while riding her bike, and her accident brought both her parents together again to apologize and make up. The family ended up staying in Odyssey. This has been the Beginner's Guide to Odyssey for Sagas, up to episode 765, Follow Me. And we are back now. However you got through that, whether you skipped through it or listened to some things or listened all the way through, we are here at the end now. Time to close this up.
If you skipped it, how dare you?
Even though that's what it's meant for. So, hopefully you learned something, or you remembered something, or you just had fun, because we did.
Look at my smile.
To quote Jeff Ramsey, who's the winner here? It's the audience.
Jeff Ramsey!
Okay, Victoria, what do we do next time?
We are reviewing Follow Me and Soaplessly Devoted as requested by me.
Yes, it is.
Because I'm the boss.
It's true. It is a brand new year for the Odyssey Adventure Club. We are going to be starting out with, the January episode, Follow Me, and Soaplessly Devoted also. And then we are going to be talking about our predictions for the 2015 OAC season. Because,
as you can tell, Devin doesn't like these 2 episodes.
Yes, very clearly. All of the episode titles have come out, and so it is time to talk about our predictions. So we'll do that next time. Until then, I've been Leonard Meltsner.
And I have been Echo, also known as Victoria. Also known as I'm Still Wearing Green.
Thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. Farewell.
11.